we are here at KubeCon and Cloud Native Con in Copenhagen, Denmark, and today with us we have Chris. It's great meeting you again.
Yeah.
So tell us what's news going on.
So we had a set of keynotes this morning, and I'm very excited. CNCF in general is growing as an organization, so we've hit over 200 members. I believe 216, I think, is the official public number. We have a new platinum member. We've had a lot of growth in China, so I was happy to sign up JD.com. A lot of people don't realize JD is one of the largest publicly known Kubernetes deployments out there. 20,000 plus machines. They're also one of the largest Vitesse deployments out there, which is interesting. Vitesse is a new project that came in under CNCF. So we're just happy to kind of have growth and support in China. So, yeah. Because
there was also a survey which was dedicated to what is the reason behind this? I mean, we are seeing China is adopting a lot of open source technologies, but...
Correct. I think it's just in general, like if you're looking to innovate as a company, you're not going to necessarily always buy like off the shelf. Like to scale, you're going to have to, take open source technology and customize it to your needs. And China is a country that has, billion plus people to meet the needs of that country from scale. You're going to take things like Kubernetes, Vitesse, customize it for your needs and have it scale for your particular needs. So it's interesting to watch. So I think one of the big themes for me this year is we're doing our first event in China later. So we're doing KubeCon Shanghai, Cloud Native Con Shanghai. I think it's November 11th through 13th, and we essentially want to build bigger bridges with the organizations in China that are already using our technology and projects. We want them to contribute more. We want to offer translations of a lot of our documentations, exams, certifications, and so on. So
when you mention that to engage with the language, does it play a role or not?
Language is important, right? Like, so I think for us having translations for our certification, training, not all, like we can't do all our projects documentation, but we're investing in the effort for having translations for Kubernetes in Chinese. So Kubernetes.cn will kind of have the Kubernetes version of the site and docs in Chinese. So it's important. It's a large community, and we want to make sure we support it, but it is a bit of a challenge. So.
Right. How about keynote? Will you be speaking there?
I will be.
In Mandarin or in English?
It will be in English. There will be live translation. JD.com will be speaking and talking about their journey from. They were an OpenStack shop a few years ago, and they completely moved off and are running everything on bare metal. It's a very fascinating story, and they're going to go into that. So I'm giving you a small little sneak preview of what they're going to chat about, but there'll be a keynote. We haven't decided who else is going to keynote, but we're working on it. So.
Right, because I talk about diversity a lot, and I was talking to Beth Cohen from Verizon, and she mentioned that what happens is that when a lot of people from whether it's Asian, and then you put them on keynotes and they have to speak in English, they feel uncomfortable, or in the panel discussions. So language, since CNCF is kind of expanding in this area, and Linux Foundation is heavily into diversity. Even today, Dirk Hohendel, he talked about that. So that's why I was curious, how do you plan to engage the wider community?
For almost all our international events, whether it's in China or Japan, we usually do have like live translation offered for the audience, and we do also have options where some talks may be in the native language. So it depends. We haven't fully fleshed out our plans for KubeCon.
So you are considing all those different factors.
Absolutely.
Perfect. What else is?
What else? We've grown to about 20 projects. So we've added some projects recently. In Alexis's keynote today, he was kind of talking about the CNCF 20 vision, right, and kind of expanding into areas more than just Kubernetes proper. So there's aspects around security and policies. So we've added a project, Spiffy, which helps deal with service identity and security at scale for Kubernetes-related services. OPA is policy management. Kubernetes by default ships with kind of a good settings around like configuring RBAC for your services, but that's necessarily not flexible enough for many. So having an extension using like the Open Policy Agent Project or OPA, where you kind of define your own policy and have it run proactively is a good option for folks. So we're seeing kind of a wide expansion of areas that CNCF is looking to kind of invest in and bring cloud native to.
Right, and while you talk about these things, new customers, and they're like 4,300 or 4,500.
For 4,300 or so people here today,
and then you're expanding into China. So new use case, and you also mentioned, JD.com, they're moving away from. I don't want to mention OpenStack. I love them, but they have been through a lot of evolution where they realized that they were like ballooning in. So how do you ensure that Kubernetes will not?
So there's a few approaches we take. So first, Kubernetes. Well, let's talk about CNCF first. So we do not force integration for projects. Like we don't have like a one major release. We don't have like a gatekeeping Zool process, that OpenStack and even other foundations. I'm heavily involved in Eclipse. We have like an annual release where everyone has to come together and integrate. We don't do that. We don't force that integration.
Are you planning to acquire Eclipse Foundation?
No. We don't force this type of integration. What we do is we allow our members and end users actually come up with the integrations themselves or offers a product that actually solves an end user need. And then if that's actually useful, that may be contributed back to Kubernetes or somewhere in CNCF. So we've kind of taken that, independently set of projects that are loosely coupled that were integrated by end users and members that actually have use. So we're not forcing any integration. The other thing that I find useful is Kubernetes itself is a fairly, it has a strong technical identity, right? There's a good core set of contributors there that make sure the quality is high. We do not force things into Kubernetes. We're trying to keep it very, have that strong technical identity. CNCF almost acts as a release valve and experimentation center for things. So things like, SPIFFE and OPA, they're not directly being integrated into Kubernetes right now. They're kind of, sandbox projects, early stage projects that are doing some interesting innovation and so on, and we'll see if it works or not. If it does work well, then maybe it'll be, integrated kind of into Kubernetes in the future. But for now, this allows some experimentation. So there's none of this like forced kind of integration until it's actually useful for the market. So
yeah, and it's exciting to see like there's so many use cases of Kubernetes. People are using it where you would not expect it to be, kind of used.
Yeah.
Let's just kind of switch gears and talk about OCI, because that's also a project that you are involved with.
Yeah, so it's been fun because I've been involved with OCI and CNCF, since day one, and OCI has always been the simpler, more humbler project of the two. It's got a very simple mission. It just wants basic set of container standards that everyone could rely on. And so we shipped 1.0 last year, which was a huge notable achievement in the industry to kind of get all the cloud providers, Docker, CoreOS, Red Hat, all these people on the same page to agree on a 1.0 version of these specs.
CoreOS and Docker, Red Hat and
they're one. Yeah, exactly one. But the CoreOS website and blog still exists. But they're one company. So recently what we've done is, initially we focused on just the kind of runtime and image spec. And when I say runtime, I mean like the execution of the container, and an image spec is the actual image format.
Right.
Now we recently announced the distribution specification. So this is another thing that we've deemed that, all right, as an industry, we agree that distribution is not really controversial anymore. We're taking the existing kind of approach that Docker has done with their registry API. We're factoring that out, turning it into the distribution spec project. We're going to get everyone's opinion on it to see if any little changes are going to potentially be made, and bless that as kind of 1.0 kind of standard that all the registries will agree to. Because right now, if you look at the different container registries out there, ECR, GCR, there are subtle differences. Some of them may not support multi-arc images. So coming up on a single way that you could kind of communicate with a container registry, I think will be useful for, for the industry, and will help further adoption of.
And does it also help in kind of ensuring that there won't be any vendor lock, because customers can very easily switch?
It's just easier. It's like less tooling to write and so on. You may have to all right, if you're going to switch a registry, you may have to use another tool to push to this registry. This will basically ensure that a simple set of tools could deal with pushing and pulling of images to a variety of registries.
Right. What are the other challenges that because I remember early days when CoreOS was pushing for a lot of OCI to handle a lot of things. So what are the other challenges that you either feel from the community that they want OCI to handle?
So I see some challenges. So OCI is a slow-moving body, right? Things don't happen fast until there's like agreement of how to necessarily do one thing. Then we'll kind of like try to codify it as an OCI specification. One interesting aspect I see right now is building container images. There's an upteen amount of different ways. Like Red Hat has a project called Builda. Google just open sourced. It used to be called Kbuild, but I forgot the name. That they open sourced some way to build containers recently. There's a variety of different of these approaches. I think there should be a standard spec and basic tool to help build, to provide how you build actual containers. So I'd potentially like to see OCI go in that direction, but I think there's too much innovation happening right now. Until things settle a little bit, we may kind of make this as a next step. But the OCI has this scope table on the website that talks about what we consider in scope for speccing out and what's out of scope.
CNCF is, the good thing is it's kind of umbrella organization, which is a lot of but there are a lot of other, like Cloud Foundry is also, which is part of Linux Foundation. There are a lot of other projects which kind of overlap, but I don't know whether they overlap or they complement each other, or...
It depends. I think Cloud Foundry is a good case of, they take some great technologies from CNCF, things like CNI, Envoy recently they picked up, and they package it up for their community, and they have a great kind of development packaging story for their respective end users, and they just take what we produce. CNCF doesn't produce a PaaS or distros. We're just a collection of highly curated projects that we find useful, that our members or external communities could build products or passes, whatever to their heart's content. So I think Cloud Foundry has done a good job of picking up some of our more useful components. There is cross collaboration going on. They have an effort called the Open Service Broker Project, right? And the Kubernetes community has been building something called the Service Catalog and so on. So there is some cross pollination going. I think we'll see more of that of the future, but CNCF's always intended to be a home of a useful collection of curated projects that members and other organizations kind of build useful products or solutions with.
So, I mean, of course, this is just I'm just throwing a funny question. I mean, do you ever plan, we should just merge all these projects so everything is under CNCF umbrella?
No, I mean, I don't think that's a right approach, because CNCF's always intended to be an umbrella, but like, we're also in a position where we're not going to collect everything, right? We allow competing projects. Some projects may win and mature over time. So, there will be a time where CNCF archives projects. Like, we're having some discussions in the TOC right now of like, what is that process potentially going to look like? Are we going to archive a project this year? Who knows? But we're talking about it, and it's the intention is there will be like a garbage collection or spring cleaning process in CNCF over time. We're just not going to collect.
From the Linux Foundation's perspective,
from the LF perspective, yeah, the LF's interesting because it's I always say it's like a diversified index fund of different open source efforts and projects. Good also because everything has hype cycles and maturity, right? Like so.
The way I look at it is like. I don't see that these projects are being controlled by Linux Foundation or whatever, but the way I look at it, that Linux Foundation is created an umbrella where it's like a very, very healthy environment, even for the competing projects, to be able to work and share resources instead of different foundations where they have their own rules and governance, and then it's hard to work together. So I think it's a good thing that you have the scope to compete, at the same time collaborate and share resources.
Yeah, it works well. It's a little bit entertaining to see if you ever go to the Linux Foundation office in San Francisco. It's like you have folks from CNCF, folks from Cloud Foundry, folks from Hyperledger, sometimes folks from Automotive Linux, all like in the same office. And there's some complementary efforts, there's some competition, but it's nice. Like it's a unique organization. A lot of people still don't realize that. The Linux Foundation is a lot more than Linux. Like we wish we could change the world's viewpoint, but we do a lot of cool things. Like a lot of people still don't realize Let's Encrypt. Let's Encrypt.org is a Linux Foundation
I've been covering Linux Foundation for early days.
And a lot of people just don't know this, and it's a little bit frustrating, but it is what it is. Lots of people know Linux, so it's a good brand.
In a good way or a bad way, it depends really a lot of.
I'm not going to comment on that one. So.
We are here in Europe. And when I looked at the survey also, what adoption? I mean, what is the difference in adoption? Do you see, Europe versus North America? Which one is more mature? Which one is less mature? Which one is?
It's hard to tell. Like for me, we're still in the early days when it comes to a lot of this. So in the U.S., the amount of public cloud adoption is significantly more than in Europe, in my opinion, especially China too, which is interesting. China is like kind of an outlier where there's still a lot of on-prem private cloud deployments. Then I'd put Europe next, right? There's a mix of both. So there's an interesting case where you have some of the big cloud providers there, Azure and AWS definitely have presence, but there's also boutique cloud, I call them boutique cloud providers, like even per country, right? There's I think Norway has like Nordcloud, like it's just like this cloud for Norway, right? And then in the US, public cloud adoption is pretty healthy. It's continuing to grow. Like I'm sure you saw AWS's financials was like a week ago or something. They announced their results. The business is growing at a healthy clip, right? There's a lot of people moving to the cloud, and it's kind of great to.
No, when I mentioned cloud, I was basically going to ask about the private cloud in sense of whether it's OpenStack based or
in China. So in China, there's a large OpenStack
I feel it's
presence, and it's great. Like for the CNCF perspective, we love our stuff running everywhere.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to be second. So do you really care whether it's private or public cloud or not?
No, at CNCF we do not. We have people that run on open. Like we just saw the CERN keynote today, right? They're doing Kubernetes on OpenStack at huge scale. Fantastic. There's other people that are running it on AWS. There's other people that are running on Azure. The whole original mission of CNCF was cloud native is all about being like the ability to move to public, private, or a mix in between the two. And that's the mission that we're enabling as an organization.
Cloud native and vendor agnostic kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's in the charter. Like you read like our values, it tells you like we're like vendor neutral, like cloud agnostic, and so on.
And all three big cloud players are either members of CNCF. Amazon also joined last year, I guess.
Yep, as a platinum member. So we are unique among open source foundations that we have all the major hyperscale cloud providers involved. There's no other one that has it, and it's something that I'm just proud of as just a person that's been involved in open source and seeing all these companies together under one neutral umbrella, and it's just it's nice to see.
What magic happened there? Even with Linux, we have seen a lot of it's very hard to kind of bring all those players together on
I don't know. It's interesting. It's like from the outside perspective, a lot of people don't understand kind of how like the sausage is made. Like Dan and I are in a lot of meetings, talking to member companies and cloud providers and trying to get people to align. I think CNCF was built and designed in a way where we're more than just one technology, right? We're more than just Kubernetes. There's a lot of other useful pieces like Envoy, Prometheus, gRPC that a lot of these companies are already using it, and so they want to support the overall mission of the organization. And honestly, some of their customers also, want the ability to potentially, go multi-cloud, use maybe Google's AI services with, AWS's, data-related services. And that's a completely practical thing, and we help enable that. So I think a lot of these cloud providers are listening to their customers and want to make sure that they could use the best aspects of their respective services.
Right, and I think the market dynamics has always changed. Now customers do have a lot of say what they want because there is so many players they move around also freely.
And to be honest, I think most companies, in order to innovate, have to be multi-cloud, right? Like why would you lock your business into one cloud provider and not use the AI services of another or the storage system of another that may be better and cheaper? Like you have to, and it's in your best interest to use what is best and available and not just pick one.
That's true, yeah. Anything else you would like to touch upon? I think we touched something.
I think, it's just been interesting to see the community grow over years. Like, for me from, day one, having our initial kind of first formation meeting of CNCF and maybe like 20 people in the room. We did our first board meeting in December 2015, and just seeing the growth, it's just been amazing. Like the thing that, I worry about is, how can we make sure everyone is getting value? Like how do we educate the industry that, cloud native is something they should move to? So it's just like, we're at a much larger size that it's hard to know everyone, and making sure everyone is happy and educated is something I worry about. But I think that's just like a cost of success. It's like impossible. It's something you have to deal with essentially. But it's fun. So it's going to be interesting to see where we are next year. So
right. But before we wrap up, because when I was looking at the slide keynote, I saw a spike from 2016 to 2017.
Yeah.
What was the reason for that spike?
CNCF grew staff. It was not just me. I think that helped.
Oh, okay.
We started with one person. We scaled the organization, right? Okay. So we were able to.
It's not that suddenly everybody was running after Kubernetes, and that was not.
I mean, it's a mix of both. Like CNCF scaled, so we could talk to more members. We could get people aligned. That definitely helped. So yeah, I think it's a mix of like the technology trends were right, and we staffed up as an organization to be able to support.
Because I was also thinking that, it's not possible because it has evolved, naturally, the growth of Kubernetes. I was like, the spike doesn't.
CNCF started with one staff member, and now we're at 20 something, say 20-ish.
So I think within Linux Foundation, you guys are the biggest ones after.
We are not. Hyperledger has the most members.
Okay.
But blockchain, we can't. How do you compete with blockchain?
We
can't sell. Just can't compete with it. So.
So Brian
Bellendorf. Yeah.
Okay.
So we have a little friendly competition sometimes of who's getting more members as just kind of a cute little contest. But we operate in completely different industries, right? He's very focused on the financial blockchain aspects. We're focused more on the kind of cloud provider, cloud centric technology. So it's different industries.
But it's fun to compete with big guys also.
Yeah, it's fun. It makes the job fun.
Anyways, nice talking to you today, and hopefully we'll see you in the next KubeCon.
Yeah, no.
You guys are going to do so many that it'll be hard to just keep up with you guys.
I don't think we're going to do more than 3 KubeCons a year.
So one will be for North America, one will be Europe, and one will be Asia.
It will be Asia. So we would love to see you in Shanghai later this year. So definitely. Consider it. So it's our first one, so it's going to be fun.
Yeah, and if Elon Musk succeeds and we move to Mars, maybe they will be going to Mars also.
Yeah. So, but no, it's exciting to see, and thank you for the time, and hope you enjoy Copenhagen.
Oh yes, sure.
Thank you, Swapnil.